How's it going? Once again, we're live, watching and waiting for the fulfillment of this vote. I guess they voted and passed it over to the House is what they just did. So the government is still not officially open, but it looks like they may have the votes, but there was some guy that was missing. Don't know where he was at. They're all waiting for him to come. And I guess it was a Republican. I'm guessing he came. He finally got there, and they now passed the vote now into the to the House. So there's a Senate and House, right? So we're waiting here, I guess, to hear what they're going to say. So supposedly, I guess they do have the votes to reopen, and they have to do it quickly because everything is falling apart in terms of the effects it's having on the American people. There is a very large groan that can be heard all the way up into the White House. And obviously, flights are being shut down en masse all over the country. So there's a travel gridlock and stalemate, whatever they want to call it. It's just nothing's working, nothing's flowing. Everything is being affected ultimately if it continues. I don't know how it could continue. They have to do something. So I guess this is it. The C-SPAN 2 countdown clock has stopped. I wonder what that means. So this is day 40 of the shutdown. Day 40. 40 days and 40 nights. I'm looking at some of the comments here. The filibuster can be stopped by the House with just a majority vote. Now, I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the filibuster, because I know that Trump wants to get rid of that filibuster so they can do whatever they want to do without any interference from the Democrats. So that was not the actual vote. The real vote is coming here. They did have like a small vote. I mean, I'm not saying that wasn't an actual vote. I think from what I understand, that was a vote for passing it over to the House. That was probably a Senate vote. So some are saying that the government opens tonight if the president signs onto it, and some are saying it goes back to the House. Which one is it? I'm not sure. We're looking for the information here. The vote, okay, so Senate for final vote, Senate for final bid, then goes to the House, which 51 voted in the Senate for the final bill, and then it goes to the House, which 218 and GOP has enough to pass it without Democrats using the VP. Okay, somebody said that. Let's see what else they're saying here. So they're saying more debate may happen tonight before the vote, before the actual vote. Excuse me. They are modifying 3 parts of the resolution, which requires the House to vote on the amendments before it goes to the president. I don't know what's going on, and I'm not really up on how the Senate and the House really work, and what they're, especially with this all the way it is. I think this is not normal. They don't really have votes. This is a very, they said, a very, very rare gathering of the Senate and the House on a weekend like this, especially on a Sunday night. This normally doesn't ever happen. So obviously this is definitely something that is causing them to have to go overtime and try to make this to work at the last minute. It needs to be voted on and sent to the House immediately. Someone said, why did God allow this this shutdown? Somebody's asking in the comments, because stupid people are in charge, and God sometimes allows stupid people to do stupid things, to win stupid prizes. But then again, who knows? The whole government handout thing is kind of stupid in and of itself. I just think it's actually encouraging people to, the way the system is, to abuse and to, no incentive is really given to people that just going to get free money. People need to have a little bit of stress in their life, I think, to give them some incentive to get out there and do something, work. And I'm not saying not everybody's got a problem. That's on SNAP or on government assistance. I just think that it needs to be regulated a little better. It needs to be a lot better. It needs to be, everybody needs to be scrutinized on a deeper level that are getting the benefits, whether it's going to illegal aliens. I mean, really, a lot of this money is going to illegals, which I think is kind of crazy. Anyways, so that's happening right now in the background. We'll probably hear the vote. Usually you'll hear, there we go. They're starting to say, you can hear something going on in the background there. We've got the audio on, so they're going to probably be saying something here. It looks like people are coming in here. But we can go through some news and see what's been happening today while we wait. I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat, for all those that are here. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? Elizabeth, I see you in the house. All the mods, the members, the Gina Mac 79. Good to see you. CSC drivers, John and Pamela Johnson. Let's see who else is in here that I see. Dog Whisperer, Mark Hill. And looks like A-Dub is in the house. What's going on, A-Dub? Truth Matters, Brenda. The Watchman. Scott Guthrie is in the house. Paul Van Horn. And Renee. Sandy Rad. So the arc door is definitely shutting, is what I think it has happened, especially with where things are going to go from here on out. A lot of people have a lot of hope that things are going to change and it's going to all be peaches and cream once again. But I think they're going to do something. There's something's going to happen. I think we're at that point, whether it's a war. I mean, did you see that video that all the Venezuelans right now are taking pictures and video of their coast full of anti-air missiles, missile batteries, and troops all over the coast? They're just waiting for an assault by the Americans. They say they've got millions of people on the ready for a war with the U.S. Isn't that crazy? That video was real interesting. Scott, you sent me that video. Thank you for that. And then with everything else that's going on, you kind of don't hear too much because we've got a lot of domestic issues, especially with the shutdown. And so, you've got so much that's going on that you could spend time delving into and figuring out, like, how bad is it? How close are we to, something happening that could be terrible on this front or on this front or on this front? But we're so consumed right now with just getting paid, like our country is just on the brink economically of something that I think this is a harbinger. For them to allow this to go this far, and even if they pull it back from the brink, I think that it just is a signal or a sign of things to come, like something much worse is coming. I don't think this is really solving anything. It's just, if anything, it's kicking the can further down the road, maybe just a little bit further. Maybe they just need to get their ducks set up in an order before they pull the plug and have the full reset really going, through. Because that's what really this is all about, I guess. In my estimation, I think it's about the reset. They need to reset the economy. It's kind of like a reboot with a new currency, and get that dirty cash. Let's get rid of that, because that's obviously very dirty, and it's a lot of people use it in the wrong way because it's not accountable, it's not trackable, it's not traceable, and there's an underground black market that uses cash, American cash, and let's just get rid of it. COVID is on the cash. We don't want to get COVID, right? So just don't take the cash anymore, right? They want to get rid of it, and it's a part of that whole agenda anyway, to bring in a new currency, which is going to be digital. And that digital currency is, I believe, a part of the last days empire or government or whatever it's going to be called, that's going to implement these tracking, tracing controls through digital surveillance, digital currencies, digital IDs, and digital prisons, really digital cities. They're going to have these smart cities, or these, as they called them, 15-minute cities, or as Trump brands them, freedom cities. They're freedom cities. Don't you know? They're freedom cities. They're not digital prisons. They're freedom cities. I just love the euphemism, right? I just love the way people do that, especially Trump, because he is a salesman extraordinaire, promoter of any and every product that he can. Somebody was talking about this today about Trump being like, I likened him to the ShamWow president. I call him the ShamWow president, but he likened him to that other guy. What was his name? Something Mac. He was the guy that would sell everything. What was his name? I'll find it right here. Hold on. I was looking at this because Trump wants to put his name on the DC on the DC stadium, So he wants his name on everything, like Trump's got his name on everything. He's got his name on this. He wants to put his name on the stadium. He's got products and everything that's branded his name on practically everything. But there's that one guy. I'm trying to find it. Let's see if I can find it here. What was his name? Yeah, that's it. Billy Mays. Billy Mays. You remember Billy Mays? Billy Mays. Look at this. So this is the Paul's channel. Just listen to this part here.
Selling his cheap products to people all across the world. Not so different from this guy.
Hi, Billy Mays here with Zorbies. Hi, Billy Mays here with the Awesome Auger. Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Putty. Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Mendit. Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Shine.
And I'll stop it there because you probably get the point. That would have been Donald Trump if the world was more normal. Simply someone who lends his name to every single product that comes down the line if he can make a few dollars out of it. And it really is astounding to think of all the products that Trump's name is on. Everything from buildings to wine to steaks to water to board games to hotels to airplanes to helicopters to perfumes, to vodka, to his own Trump University, Trump Mortgage, Trump Magazine, Trump Restaurants, Trump Clothing, Trump Hats, Trump Sneakers, Trump Guitars, Trump...
You get the point. I mean, it's just like everything, that's why I call him the ShamWow president, because he's selling the ShamWow. It does everything. I mean, it cleans your carpets, it washes your dishes, it pays your bills. I mean, it's everything all in one. But, and so, really, it's kind of like monetizing the presidency. It's monetizing the image of America. It just seems so, what they call that infomercial president. It does seem like an infomercial president. You got to admit, it's like an infomercial. So, but you go back, as we were telling you before the other day, if you go back to his origins and the way he was raised, and he was in a church, they called it a church, but, Norman Vincent Peale was promoting that doctrine. And it is a prosperity gospel doctrine, but it's also a word type faith doctrine or positive thinking doctrine. But it goes back to Napoleon Hill, who was not a Christian, but he was a promoter of all kinds of gimmicks and schemes. And he was kind of the forerunner to the whole infomercial and the self-help economy of self-help, where self-help gurus would come up with all these new snake oils that would help you, that would make you rich, that would fulfill your wildest dream. All you got to do is think in it. That's why the book was called Think and Grow Rich. And it was the handbook for all of those who, many that are in business use it, and they look at it as a handbook, kind of a Bible of sorts, to the actual field in that realm of sales. If you're a salesperson. Okay, here we go. Let's see what's going on here.
Clerk will read the title of the bill for the first time.
S. 3168, a bill to appropriate funds for pay and allowances of federal employees and so forth and for other purposes.
Mr. President, I now ask for a second reading. In order to place the bill on the calendar under the provisions of Rule 14, I object to my own request.
Objections heard. The bill will be read for a second time on the next legislative day.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday, November the 10th. Following the prayer and pledge, the general proceedings be approved today. The morning hour be deemed expired. The time for the two leaders be reserved for the use later in the day. And the Senate resume consideration of the motion to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371, post-cloture. Finally, that all time during recess, adjournment, morning business, and leader remarks count post-cloture on the motion to proceed.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order.
Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
What? So what happened? Nothing happened? What happened? Nothing happened. So they didn't do what they said they were going to do? What is people saying in the comments over here? So nothing happened. People are like, no, it's tomorrow, 11 a.m. No, this is dumb. Trump proved me wrong. 11 a.m., folks. Good night. Nothing has been accomplished. Nothing was accomplished. So what happened? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying to figure it out. What is going on? What's going on? Whoops. What's going on? Let me see what people are still saying here. The deal is done. The House will vote, will reopen. The House will vote to reopen. The real vote in Congress will be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But what about the Epstein files? People are confused. They don't know what happened. Okay, for 30 seconds, then no sound. Make up your mind.
Stands in recess until tomorrow.
What the heck is this guy doing on here? How did that happen? Now, how did we get him on there? That was weird. Oh, it kind of flowed over there. So yeah, I guess there's a recess until tomorrow. So that looks like it's said and done. So we'll probably cover that in the morning tomorrow as well. But in the meantime, we can always look at some news. I know there was news that went on today. I was looking at some of your comments. David, God bless you. Thank you very much, David Craig. Once again, David Craig supporting the channel. One of the only guys out there that has the loaves and the fishes that we're multiplying. we're taking the little lunch of the like Jesus took that little lunch and there was like 3,000 people, 5,000 people out there. We got to feed all these people. Well, who's got a lunch? Who's got like a little lunch of loaves and fishes? And there's David. Here's my loaves and fishes. Let's see what we can do with this. All right. Well, we're going to multiply it. Who wants to get behind and help out the cause like David? David Craig. the champion of getting the message out. We're definitely trying to do this on a shoestring budget. We want to reopen the fellowship and church that we have and get people's needs met. There's a lot of people out there that are going to probably need this really soon. I have a feeling that this is not going to be resolved in the way that people think. You might have to, get on the system and give your digital blood. They're gonna start drawing your blood to get your digital DNA. Hey, we need your digital DNA in order for you to have this SNAP program and these benefits and to be able to eat and to be able to survive in this economy. You're going to have to become one with the Borg. Is that fine? Is that okay? Do we have your agreement, your consent? Are you willing to take this mark? And we're going to say no, hell no. And we're not going to take it. The world will take it, but the believers won't take it. So anyways, we're going to hopefully have an economy outside of the system itself. Hopefully we can do that without having to be dependent on the beast. It's definitely the beast. When do we have a live call-in thing? I don't know. I kind of was thinking maybe we could do that. I was thinking that about earlier, Jackie. That's kind of funny that you should say that. I was like, I wonder if we should have a call-in. Should we have a call-in? Let me see if I can get a phone number up and running here. Let me see if I can find a phone number. Oh, I think maybe I can get a phone number. Let's see. Let me see if I can get a phone number for you guys here. Maybe we can do that. Let me see if my wife's up there over there. Here, hold on, honey bunny. Massive takeoff queues at Newark Airport. More than 10,000 flights have been delayed. 2,000 have been canceled in the U.S. Transportation Secretary says things are only going to get worse unless the government reopens. There's a huge queue of planes that are just lined up on the tarmac. Wow. I see like 15 or 20 planes, at least 20 planes just lined up right there. Crazy. Honey, if you're listening, honey, look at the telegram. I just sent you a message. Are you there? Hello. Let me just go through some news while I wait here. The next war with Iran. Iran says the next war is only a matter of time, unquote. Iran prepares waves of missiles towards Israel. Despite Trump's claim that he bilateraled Iran's nuclear program, boliterated. It should say obliterated. I think there was somebody somebody must have made a mistake on the way they wrote this, but and this is an official. This is a Ynet post, so they must have made an error with their spelling there. They put boliterated. I think they meant to say obliterated. Okay, so despite Trump's claim that he obliterated Iran's nuclear program, regional officials say that Tehran's capabilities remain intact. Israel warns Iran's uranium stockpile moved to a secret site, that Iran's uranium stockpile was moved to a secret site as its missile factories run 24 hours a day. Whoever wrote this wrote it terrible, but these people probably don't have great English skills. This is coming from Ynet Global. I had to edit it as I read it because it didn't make any sense. So Ynet is saying that, and that's a big Israeli news outlet, Ynet. Ynet Global also says that the next clash is only a matter of time. Iran prepares to flood Israel with missiles. Daily news from Iran, Daily Iran News. That is an X account, an official. I think it's an official Iranian news source. says another Israel-Iran war is only a matter of time. New York Times also reports it's just fixing to go down with Iran. I know that that's a major thing that's going to happen. Not to mention the stuff going down on in the southern part of the the continent, South America, with not only with Venezuela, but you got Colombia and even Brazil, and then also Nicaragua. Did you see what Nicaragua said? They said the whole region looks at America as the American empire as the enemy. This is what Nicaragua said. So it's not just a few countries in South America. It's a number of Central and Southern American countries. I wouldn't say American. I would say South American and Central American countries look at America as an enemy. And, Nicaragua is pretty much communist, I think. They're pretty communist, aren't they? Communist government. Sandinistas took over, remember? The Iran-Contra affair. Remember how that all kind of fit together? Iran and Contras and the Sandinistas and the Contras were the faction that was trying to overthrow the government, and we were supporting the Contras through illegal arms deals that we were making with Iran. Remember that? Oliver North. How many of you guys remember that? Back in the 80s under Reagan? So there you go. You got Iran now connected in some way to some of the stuff that was going on in Central America, and I'm sure they're very well connected to what's happening now. We just don't know about it. Not to mention the Chinese and the Russians. They're in our backyard. They're right there in Mexico. They're hanging out with the Mexicans as well, I'm sure, getting ready to do something on our southern border. And did you hear the Americans and the American military has ordered 1 million drones to be made, drone warfare. We're getting into that drone era. I don't know if maybe that's a part of the dream that I had where everything was drones were above and they were looking in our windows and they were coming down, checking things out. I felt like it was like alien type technologies, but obviously anybody that's stalking you is like an alien, some kind of crazy, out of this world, demonic character. But so the U.S. military going to buy 1 million drones. What the heck are we going to do with a million drones? It's all for war. And then Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said yesterday, did you see that? He said, we're preparing for war. Did you see that? Oh, but what happened to the peace? What happened to the peace president? I thought he was a president of peace. Why are we preparing for war? Yeah, that was a statement he made. Get ready for war. And let's see what else we got here. An earthquake swarm hits San Francisco Bay Area with back-to-back tremors. I guess this happened today. New York Post is reporting that an earthquake swarm had hit San Francisco Bay Area. And it says here, New York Post says, we need your help. Please support us. But what about BP News? We need your support too. I can't tell people to support you when we don't even got things going on here. We're probably going to go off the air any moment, any time here. We don't get people to support. But hey, you know what I want to do is I want to try to capitalize on this moment, because I think that what we're going to do is position ourselves for when it does get bad, that we're going to have some infrastructure ready to really help people. Because I think hopefully, if people that are in our audience that are truly dependent on this money and they're going to get it, that's fine. Then they don't need as much help, right? But at a certain point, I think it's going to go in that direction once again. I think that this is just a prelude of something that's coming, that they were just using this as a battering ram to kind of get their will. And I'm talking about the Trump administration. They were using this as a way to kind of push their agenda and their will to get things done. But, Trump's of the mindset, I think, that he knows that if he can control the distribution of funding and food, that he can control the outcome of things. This is what one of the senators was saying. I know it was a governor. I think I heard this on one of the channels, one of the major news channels. The governor was being interviewed. I think it was the governor. Yeah, it was the governor of Maryland. It was a black guy. I think was it the government of Maryland? I think it was him. Let me see if it's the same guy. And he was saying that Trump is causing chaos. And remember how I told you he's a chaos candidate, according to his own people, his own MAGA people. They wrote a book about him being the chaos candidate, and that he awakens the world through chaos. He facilitates it in the back, quietly trying to say he's bringing order. But it's the chaos that he facilitates, that he creates through policy, but ultimately brings the order, right? He wants to bring the new order that he himself is orchestrating and supposedly regenerating. He's rebooting the system in a very healthy manner, right? We've got to pull us back. But see, you don't understand. The people that have installed Trump are the same ones that brought us to the brink. So why are they? This is what you call the Hegelian dialectic. People don't get this. It's the left and the right, two pillars that are basically holding up the pyramid, right? They kind of, and there's a pyramid of power that both parties are utilizing to bring this agenda to pass. And so they play each side off of each other. All the while they push their agenda and further their cause. So it's really not about Republican or Democrat. And for Trump to say he's pushing the Republican Party and its agenda is only the same part. It's the same uniparty system, right? So people don't get this. They're still caught up into that left-right paradigm thing. They don't get the big picture. They don't see how it all works. And so the chaos president, as they're calling him, is a part of that awakening to the global order. Now, what's really weird is I heard something today that reminded me of a dream. Remember I told you guys how I started off, and a little history might help here. When I first started doing YouTube back in 2008, and I told you about that dream. Some of you guys may remember this, but I went through the whole process not too long ago to tell you the whole story. Like I said, I should probably write a little book on this or something, or at least make a video on it that's just detailing it. But what happened was I started to do YouTube when Obama came into office, right before he came into office, before he actually won the presidency. And I felt like I needed to alert people, and that was the genesis and the beginning of what became a YouTube channel that right out the gate went viral. I mean, we had Rush Limbaugh, Fox News, which was Hannity and Combs. All the major news networks were pretty much promoting a video that I had posted. I posted a video and it went viral and it got millions of views. But before that happened, it was during the shutdown of the government, if you'll remember, under Obama, 2008, as the election was unfolding and the race between McCain and Obama was still hot and heavy, the government went into a collapse, right? The economy began to tank. And the stock market went down 777 points in one day. And back then, that was a huge amount of a percentage of the economy in the stock market. So 777 points now would not be anything. We've seen the stock market crash, 1,000 or 1,500 points. But back then, our economy could not sustain that many point drop. So there was a big rush to go into Congress to pass a bill. And this bill was during the time of right before the election. And Obama became very presidential, and he advised, at the time it was George Bush, on how to handle, at that point he was acting presidential. And at that point is when Obama's numbers surpassed McCain, because at that point, McCain was still ahead of Obama in the polls. And that happened on Rosh Hashanah, September 28th, 2008, right? September 28th, I think it was, or September 29th, 2008. Now, when that happened, right when the economy crashed, and the Congress went into their vote to try to pass a stimulus package, right? They needed to pass a stimulus package. It was an emergency vote. They wanted it to go through, and it was during that time when I got the call from the Lord Most High to start doing videos. And the Lord spoke to me, and he put this spirit of fear and trembling came over me. It was during the days of awe, right after the economy crashed. I realized 777, the economy crashes 777 points. On Rosh Hashanah, I knew it was a sign. I knew the Lord was speaking to me. But as I prayed about it, and as I really delved into what I was supposed to be hearing and doing, it was during the days of awe, right? That's right after Rosh Hashanah, or right after the day when the crash took place, September 29th, 2008. And I had this dream. And in this dream, I saw two eagles on the White House lawn, but they were both dead. Two of them, two eagles. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because they talked about eagles on the White House lawn today. Somebody mentioned this, and I was like, I can't believe he said that, because it harkened back to that dream that I had. And that was when God called me to do this, starting YouTube. So what happened was these two eagles were on the White House lawn, and I came up to them and I was looking at them, and they looked dead. Both of them were dead. And I went up to the first one, it was dead. I went up to the second one, it was dead, but it was still kind of there. It was a little bit of life still in it, but I knew it was going to die, right? And I believe that represented America. So at that time, I didn't know what it meant. I was like, what does this mean? It was a very vivid dream. It was a very powerful dream. And I knew the Lord had given me that dream. And then it was at that time I heard the Lord speak to me and said, you're going to be heard by millions of people. And I was like, what? I was like thinking, was that the Lord? That was during the wake time. That wasn't a dream. That was a part of like a message that I received. And so I was like, was that really you? Was that really a message? Is that true? And I was thinking about praying about this. And it was very shortly after that is when my video went viral. And like I said, they were talking about us on Drudge. The top Drudge report was my channel, my YouTube channel, and it showed links directly to my YouTube channel. I had millions of people coming to my channel. But that was right after the Lord spoke to me and said, you're going to be heard by millions of people. And at that time, I didn't even know what viral meant. People were telling me, you're going viral. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't even know what that word meant. YouTube was only a couple years old at the time. Nobody was really, YouTube was still kind of up and coming, and people were like involved. But anyway, getting back to the eagles. So the first eagle was dead. The second eagle looked like it was dead, but it was still alive, but it was going to die. And then I didn't know what it meant. Then came the bailout bills. The next day, they proposed a bailout. That bill died in the Congress. It didn't pass. They began to tell the senators and all of the congressmen, if you don't pass this bill, we're going to propose another bill. Martial law will begin on the streets of America. Martial law, they were intimidating everybody about if they didn't pass this bill, martial law would come and it would be terrible, right? So what ended up happening was they passed the second bill, and that was the two eagles, right? Well, then I'm hearing this today where this guy says the eagle has just, I forget how he said it, the eagle just fell out of the sky onto the White House lawn. I'm trying to think, was it a comedian that said it? You know what? I think it was a comedian that said this. But it harkened back to my mind, the dream, right? So I'm starting to think, now, is this a prelude to something that's coming that is reminiscent of 2008, except it's the real death of our economy? The real death of the eagle itself, which I believe represents America. Because it was such a vivid image that this, and I'll find it and I'll see if I can put it up there, but so I'm kind of feeling like there's a possibility that this is just a prelude to something coming that's going to be economic. And it's already affecting. I don't think that this is the problem as much as our economy itself, the whole SNAP benefits and the That's obviously something that's very emotionally charged, and a lot of people are dependent on it. But what about the rest of the economy? What about the rise in inflation? What about all the rise in prices? Well, Trump proposes to give $2,000 in a stimulus to every American. Did you hear about that today? Why are they doing that? Because our economy is overinflated. Trump is finally acknowledging that by saying this, as if it's some kind of benevolent handout, as if he's doing this because we're so rich now. We're so rich. Oh, you know why we're rich? It's because we got a lot of worthless dollars right now. The world is dumping dollars. They're de-dollarizing. They're getting rid of their dollars. And so we have all these dollars coming home to roost. And what happens when that happens? Everything goes up sky high. Then you have a wheelbarrow bucket full of cash to go buy a loaf of bread. That's why the price of gold is up $4,000, $5,000. It's going to, it's up there. That's apocalyptic numbers. Whenever you see the price of gold go up that high, it's probably World War III or something. That's what people will say. Back in the day when they said, if you ever see gold go up to like $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 an ounce, it's World War III. People are putting their money into a haven that they know is going to hold value, because currencies are obviously falling apart. So when Trump says, hey, I'll give you $2,000, what is $2,000 really going to buy you when everything else is going up in price? Is that really going to help you? I mean, really, seriously, you're going to have $2,000 in a wheelbarrow and you're going to go buy a loaf of bread. Okay, that's pretty much what, symbolically speaking, it's probably going to buy more than a loaf of bread, but it's not going to buy what your dollar doesn't have the buying power that it used to have. Okay? Because everything is going up in price. Everything. So that $2,000 isn't even going to put a dent in what you really need. I mean, everybody needs a stimulus package of like $30,000 to just get through a year, in order to even make a dent and maybe really even help. They need at least 30 grand, the way people are living. And I'm just talking about the people that have been impacted. I'm not talking about rich people or, I'm talking about the value of what it takes to keep the economy rolling. They're saying this, 70 to 80% of people are pulling back. Americans are pulling back on purchases. Do you know how that affects our economy? When people pull back and they start saving their money and they don't buy things like they normally would buy. Like, I'm not going to get a haircut. I think we'll just cut Johnny's hair. We don't have money like we did. Well, maybe we'll just not eat out anymore. Okay, we're going to make our own food. We're going to go out and do things that we can do ourselves now. We don't need to take all these. So everybody's retracting. The whole economy is retracting. Okay, so that has a ripple effect, and it also affects a lot of businesses that are dependent on that easy flow of money, right? Everything is going to be affected. Everything is pulling back. Everything is you're starting to see, and it starts from the top. And it does have everything to do with tariffs. It has everything to do with the world rejecting America's dollars and America's system. And I'm not saying every country is rejecting our dollars and our system, but there are a lot of countries, because of what's going on with the war stuff, that are getting themselves positioned to be independent of the hegemony of the U.S. dollar and the petrol oil dollar. They're not trading in dollars anymore. They're trading in other currencies. They're trading with gold. They're trading with oil. And that whole monopoly that we once had is no longer there. So that's why everything is changing for America. And this is why they're preparing, and they have been preparing for this flip over into crypto. So we're supposedly going to be the crypto capital of the world. So we have a new digital dollar that everybody's going to need, right? Everybody's going to need our digital dollars. We're going to make it so that Bitcoin is the main holder is American investors, right? And the biggest investor is the U.S. government, because they've confiscated $200 to $300 billion in Bitcoin from criminal activity, supposedly. I don't know how they did that. If it was so decentralized and so anonymous, how did they do that? Well, they did it. They've got $300 billion in Bitcoin reserves. And so what they're expecting, and this is what they're promoting, is that, well, Bitcoin is poised to go up to $200 to $300 and to $300,000 an ounce. So all of this investment from Americans is going to turn into a a boon. Everybody's going to get rich when the whole world needs Bitcoin, and they see that this is a reserve of money that they can trust, and that it's going to be stable, and it's going to help stabilize global economy. Well, then the whole of America is going to get rich overnight, and we're going to pay off our trillions of dollars in debt overnight because the price of Bitcoin is going to go through the roof. It's going to double in price or triple in price. And all that extra money that we now have, well, we just put that reserve currency that we have as a reserve of our national reserves into paying off the debt. Is that going to work? Is that really the way it's going to work? What do you guys think? Does that make any sense to you? What do you guys think? Oh, I was going to get I was going to do a call in, and maybe I can do a call in and have you guys tell me what you think. Honey, are you out there? Hello? I've been trying to get a hold of you on the Telegram page. Hello? She's not, I don't think she's listening. She's not listening to me. In order to get this call thing going, I need her to talk to me here. Otherwise, I gotta take a break and go get it myself. Does that make any sense to you? I'm looking at your comments right now, so we might open up the phone lines here in a minute and have some of you guys call in. If anybody out there has anything they want to share or talk about, just post it in the chat right now, and then maybe I'll get the phones up. Maybe I can get the phones up. We need to get Trump branded. We need to brand Trump. Should we just put our logo over Trump? Brand him. Honey Bunny. Yeah, my Honey Bunny is not here. Where is the Honey Bunny? Jackie Barr says, myself and my kids are making food from scratch. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing the same thing. We stocked up a little bit back in the day, when times were a little bit better. We kind of, and thank God we did, because otherwise, like we stocked up on wheat berries and different things that we stored away, kind of like little pack rats. What do they call it? The little Joseph company here. But we grind up our wheat berries. We make our own bread. That saves a lot of money making bread, and it's a lot more healthy. It doesn't have a bunch of terrible ingredients. We got chickens. They make eggs. Now, obviously, you got to get the feed out there, but hey, they're organic eggs, and they taste great, and they make a whole bunch of them. We also produced a whole bunch of chickens, and we butchered them, so we did it ourselves. Free-ranged them. I had to do the work of, that's a little extra thing there. But when you do things like that, you make your own food. My wife, we did a garden, right? She pickled a bunch of cucumbers, made pickles out of them, right? Stored a bunch of food. We froze a bunch of vegetables. We had a huge vegetable produce. And so what I ended up doing before winter is before the winter really hits here, is I made it was kind of last minute thing, but I did a greenhouse. Put a greenhouse up really quickly, and we did it with plastic sheeting, like the real thick plastic sheeting. It kind of built a framework for it, and then put the sheeting over the top. And that way, it holds in the heat, and you can still grow throughout the winter if you got a little heat source in there. That's kind of what we're doing with those candles, is those candles will kind of create a heat environment. And you can also put barrels of water in there, which you can also use the water to water your plants. But the barrel of water heats up, and then your water regulates temperature. And you can put like a little heater in the water too, so it doesn't freeze, because we get really Arctic blasts that come down. Sometimes we'll be down below zero, getting down into negative temperatures. And if you keep it regulated, you can still grow winter crops, vegetable crops and stuff, and that just keeps producing. Some of these vegetables, they just keep producing. You just cut off the leaves and at least you're not going to, you're getting nutrients. You're getting good food. You're getting healthy food. Something that would cost you, every time you go to the store, you buy a little thing of green vegetables. It costs you $5 or $10, shoot, just grow your own food. Get out there and do it. Grow it. Become self-sufficient, as much as you possibly can, especially with where things are going from here on out. We did it because we knew that things were going to get bad, and we kind of tried to set up a little system. But, everything is being affected. I mean, the whole economy, I can feel it. I can see it. It's affecting us. It's and I know it's probably affecting you all out there as well, because the economy is not just, it affects everything. And it have you heard that saying, trickle down economics? That is true. I mean, things do trickle down. So when things are affecting other people higher up, it's affecting the whole of the economy. It ultimately comes all the way down to everybody. I mean, Walmart is a good illustration. Walmart prices and the tariffs that have affected the supply chain. Are things going to get any better? Well, supposedly there were deals made with China that should smooth over all of Trump's crazy rhetoric that brought us to the brink of, losing our edge on everything that we needed. And Trump, China was like, oh, so you don't need this? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to keep doing this? Okay, well, we'll just take away all of these things from you and see what happens. And Trump was like, no, buddy, old pal. Let's meet together, old buddy, old pal. Can we reverse that or make a deal? Let's make a deal, man. I just needed to do this. Bravado was just for my people, just to make them think that I'm the king of the world. Let's just do this deal in secret. Gigi, we are dependent upon you. You know that we owe our soul to you because everything we have comes from you. But this is bravado stuff that Trump has to promote as if everything is always big, beautiful, amazing, very rich. It's always just this. It is bravado. He says it in his own words. He does bravado. He does hyperbole. He does it for the purpose of giving some people hope. To trust, even if it's not true, even if it's not actually going to come to pass the way they expect. He just says it to give them excitement. He wants them to be excited because that creates opportunity, that creates sales, that creates people that want to do something because they want to do something with someone that tells them something positive. It's kind of like this whole thing about this Amway people. Back in the day when Amway, you go to Amway meeting, they tell you to think positive. Visualize a purple Cadillac, visualize yourself in a beautiful home, and then get out there and work, and you'll see everything will come to pass because you have this vision, and you just keep looking at this idol, and you keep bowing down and worshiping it, and you keep confessing it. You keep saying it. You keep saying it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you know what? It will happen. The agents of, and I told you guys about this chaos magic. Remember, it's you get servile entities that go out to do your bidding when you do this guided imagery. They call it guided imagery in the occult. It's called guided imagery. And instead of appealing to God Most High and asking for His will to be done and being content with what you have, no, you want to be idolatrous, you want gold and silver, and you want to see an idol pop out of the fire so that you can say, these are our gods that saved us, O Israel. We are servile to gold and silver idols. We serve the economy of greed, lust, and avarice, and everything else. That's our God. America. And Trump represents that beautifully. The golden dawn. The dawning of a golden age. Exactly. You can't eat money, but hey, I'm not saying that money isn't important because God obviously gave us a medium of exchange, and money was the symbol of our time and our talents and our investment. But we're to be paid according to our work. The Bible is very clear about that. Do not withhold payment from him that works your fields. Do not muzzle the ox when he's out working. Because when you treat your workers bad, you're doing it under the Lord. The Lord requires that you treat your servants in a way that is, it's gonna keep the economy rolling. It's gonna keep the things the way they're supposed to be in terms of relations, right? Money is just kind of it's a medium of exchange, and it represents the way you handle it. It represents what's going on inside you, because it's an extension of what you really think, the way you handle it. If you love money and you pursue money, the Bible says you're going to pierce yourself through with many a sorrow. But if you use money in a way that is facilitating God's kingdom and God's message and your own good deeds that you use your money for, you help people, you put other people's needs ahead of your own. Sometimes, I'm not saying that you don't, take care of your need. God takes care of you. If you give your life and heart to God and you trust that he's going to take care of you, then you're content with that, and you ask for God to help you to help other people. Help me to help you. Like that's what God wants. I think God is like that. Jerry Maguire, remember that movie, Jerry Maguire? Help me to help you. God will give you the key that will help bring people to a place where they're free in their hearts, in their minds, in their bodies. Physically, they get healed, and then economically, everything seems to kind of work out at a certain point. So I believe that there's going to be loaves and fishes that are going to be multiplied. I believe that the ravens are going to bring people their needs to get them met, just like the little widow. And the prophet comes around and says, hey, I'm going to come and I'm going to give you what you need. Because she's like, we're just going to make a little bit of bread and this oil, and then we're going to die. We have no food. And what the prophet says, you just do what the Lord shows you. And he gave her a message, and she did it, and then everything multiplied, right? I have no what am I thinking of? It's not hard for me to believe that God does miracles like this at all, because I've seen too many things happen over the years of how God provides. So I'm just sharing that with you out there that are in a place of need right now, because you can put your trust in the Lord. And I know it doesn't seem logical or rational in many ways for people that are in that realm of thinking logically, that God would provide for your needs in a certain way that may seem unconventional. Okay, but you do have to apply yourself. And I'm not saying just go out there and work according to your own understanding, because God might tell you to sit back and wait and pray and really, take the time that it takes to really get to the bottom of what the root of the problem is. And really, that might be the motivation of your heart. And when that's right, then God can answer you. Then God can show you, when it says work with the strength that God provides, well, then that's when the Spirit of God comes upon you to go out there and do what you're supposed to do. That's when the wisdom comes to you, when you don't lean upon your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him. That's when God gives you witty inventions. That's when he gives you great ideas. That's when he'll provide everything that you need. At that moment, he'll give it to you. And he doesn't, it's not like just magical, things falling out of the sky. Well, it could be. I'm not saying that God can't do that, because he did it through manna, and he did it through the ravens bringing the bread, to Elijah. But I'm just going to tell you this. It will be miraculous the way God provides for you, and you'll know it's him. It's not going to be just like you trying to supply your own need. Because really, your needs are much more than just bread and housing and clothing. God provides that. Very clearly says for all of his people that you're not to be worrying about what you're going to eat, what you're going to put on, what you're going to drink, where you're going to live. God takes care of the raven. He takes care of the birds of the air. They don't worry about what they're going to eat, and God provides for them. And the lilies of the valley, they're clothed with more glory than Solomon, right? They don't toil and they don't spin, but, they're clothed with more glory than Solomon was. And Solomon was the richest of men, right? So why are you taking care? Why are you so consumed with anxiety? If your Father in heaven truly cares for you, like he does the birds of the air, like the lilies of the valley, then why are you worried? Oh, you of little faith, it says, right? So then it goes on to say, then Jesus says, be anxious for nothing. Don't be anxious about anything, but by everything with prayers and supplication, with thanksgiving, tell God thank you, pray for the things that you need, and leave it there and trust that he's going to help provide, because then it says, with thanksgiving, make your request known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and guard your mind in Christ. So you will have a peace that surpasses any kind of comprehension or reason. And you'll know that God is going to provide. Now, this has happened to us so many times, I can't even tell you. Things looked very bleak. Things looked like there's no answer. We trusted, we prayed, we waited, we asked for God's intervention, and then all of a sudden we had a peace. No answers in the physical, natural world. No solution, still same condition, but we had a peace. We weren't worried. We trusted, we waited. Miraculously, the windows of heaven opened. God provided the answers at the moment we needed them. Perfectly timed. Exactly what we needed. And then it was over in abundance many times. It was an overabundant pouring out. Because God does provide many times in an abundance. And when you have that abundance, you should do well with it. Don't waste it. Invest it. Give it back into the Lord's work. Or somebody is in need, go help them. Get involved with the kingdom's mission of taking a message, because this is really what it's about. It's about getting that message that we're talking about here into the hearts of people that don't know about this principle in this relationship of truth. It really is a principle that guides you, but it's a principle that's based on a relationship with God, because he's the one that teaches you these truths, right? So we're teaching people how to hear from God to implement the truth that's going to set not only them free, but everybody that hears them, right? You're going to be saved, not only you, but your whole household. It's going to be everybody that hears you. If they hear you and they listen, then they're going to receive the same blessing back. They're going to receive the same reward, right? That's why the Bible says, give a prophet a drink, and it says you will receive a prophet's reward. You're going to receive a reward when you get involved with a message that is from the Lord. Anyways, I'm looking back at your guys' comments here. Oh, I was thinking about that 3-eye atlas. We were thinking about this because my wife brought this up, and it had to do with Vernon von Braun. I did a bunch of research on Vernon von Braun. You guys know who that is? He was Hitler's rocket man who produced the V2 missile or rocket back in the World War II era. And the Americans really wanted this guy to be on the team here. And that was Operation Paperclip, where he came a bunch of Germans that were scientists. And by the way, who was that reapplied there? I saw that. Green Good Maker, God bless. Thank you for becoming a member. Green Good Maker is a member of the BP News Channel. Welcome. God bless. God bless you. And but getting back to what I was saying about this I3 Atlas is that this what was I saying right before that? I got all sidetracked there. They're saying that this comment is very odd, and they're talking about it being possibly like an alien mothership or something. That, this is all the talk, right, from even high-level people. But this Vernon von Braun had stated, and he had a connection with this lady that went and did videos about her involvement with Vernon von Braun toward the end of his life. And I did a lot of research on Vernon von Braun. Very interesting history there, and his connections to the NASA space program us getting to the moon, supposedly, if you believe that we went to the moon. Some people don't believe we went to the moon. Remember Dumb and Dumber when he's walking out and he sees that article on the wall that says we went to the moon, and he's like, we went to the moon? Yeah! It was like years later, but he all of a sudden realizes that we finally went to the moon. But this guy, Vernon von Braun, talked about the stages of deception that would come upon the world. He was telling her that the last, and he called it I guess it was like a psyop. He kind of warned her that this would take place when everything was coming to a head. They would have a fake alien thing that would take place in the heavens with aliens. Let me let you see this, because I'm gonna show you this clip. We was looking at this the other day in light of the Atlas 3, the Atlas thing here. What? By Wednesday? What? Until then, listen to this really quickly. So breaking, it says the Senate has adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday, although multiple more votes are needed to reopen the government. Speaker Johnson is hoping to have the House vote by Wednesday, per Fox. He's hoping to have the House vote by Wednesday? That's like 3 days away. They might not have all the votes. And then it says, until then, airport chaos continues and the government remains shut down. So the airport chaos is going on. It's huge right now. They're saying it's only going to get worse as this continues. So this is like the death throes, maybe. Maybe we're in that death spiral right now. Things are just getting worse and worse right now, and that's why they're all, we need to meet. We need to somehow save our democracy. We need to save civilization because we're about on the brink of chaos, and maybe that's why they're so scared going to try to get this thing done. They're giving hope that, well, we're going to get it all done, but it's not even done. Is it going to happen on Monday? They're saying Wednesday. They don't have the votes yet? Still? Are you kidding? Okay, well, that just came out, and you're seeing queues of airplanes on the tarmac that are like 20 down, 20 deep, of just lined up airplanes waiting to take off. This is crazy. Okay, so I wanted to show you that Vernon von Braun one. Hold on. Look at this. Honey, are you out there listening? I sent you a message. Did you see that? She sent me a message, but she didn't respond. Hello? Are you out there? Hello? Read the okay, here it is. Here's that message. Her name was Carol Rosen. Dr. Carol Rosen. And she was the first female corporate manager of Fairchild Industries and was a spokesperson for Vernon von Braun in the last years of his life. She founded the Institute for Security and Cooperation in Outer Space in Washington, D.C., and has testified before Congress on many occasions about space-based weapons. She was also present at meetings in the 70s when the scenario for the Gulf War of the 1990s was planned. She's Polish-born, German-American. I'm sorry now. She wasn't. Polish-born German-American Vernon Mangus Maximilian Feher von Braun was an aerospace engineer and space architect. He was a leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Germany and a pioneer of rocket technology and space science in the USA. Von Braun revealed to Dr. Rosen a clandestine plan to justify weapons in space based on extraterrestrial threats. Now, this woman's testimony is very interesting. Look at this conversation here that she has here. I want you to see this, because this is related, I think, to some of the weird stuff that's going on with the claims that this asteroid is somehow an alien's mothership or something. They're all talking about this, and we're talking about Nobel Peace Prize winner type level scientists and physicists that are saying this. They're saying that it has properties. This comet is doing things that are not in any way subject to laws of physics, that it has something to do with some other intelligent life or something, because it's doing things that are not fitting our ideas of what the way reality or the way physics operates. Like, it's actually doing things that are making it look like it's under some other intelligent control, like it's some kind of a ship. So here is Vernon von Braun's, I guess she was like a secretary at the time of his life. Let me put it on here so you can see it here. And if you want to go check this video out, you can go see it on my other channel there. All you got to do is type in the title there. It's on the BP Ministries channel, but here we go. Check this out.
Fairchild Industries in 1974 through 77. I met the late Dr. Werner von Braun in early 74. At that time, von Braun was dying of cancer, but he assured me that he would live a few more years in order to tell me about the game that was being played, that game being the effort to weaponize space, to control the Earth from space and space itself. Von Braun had a history of working with weapon systems and had escaped from Peenemünde to come to this country and landed as vice president of Fairchild Industries when I had met him. Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about why space-based weapons are a dumb, dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, unworkable, undesirable idea, and about the alternatives that are available. And as practically a deathbed speech, he educated me about those concepts and who the players were in this game. What was most interesting to me was a repetitive sentence that he said to me over and over again during the approximately 4 years that I had the opportunity of working with him, and that was the strategy that was being used to educate the public and decision makers, and the scare tactics, the spin that was being put on a weapon system. And that was how we identify an enemy. The enemy, at first, he said, the enemy against whom we're going to build a space-based weapon system. The strategy that Werner von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in 74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it, he said, is a lie.
Now, what's really interesting about Vernon von Braun, and I did
what I'm about to tell you is one of the strangest stories.
I'm sorry. One of the most interesting historical looks into his life and his background. I watched this video yesterday. It was very interesting video on Vernon von Braun and his history and his involvement in Nazi Germany. And he was also an SS member of the SS. They said that the Americans overlooked his past and his potential involvement in slave labor and some atrocities because of his, at one point, I guess he was arrested, but his fear of being arrested or being, put into some camp himself kind of gave him the impetus to, overlook things like slave labor and the harsh treatments that were being, levied out to the workers, because they would have people that would go into the work tunnels, because he was doing his rockets were being built in the mountains, because at a certain point they were being bombed by the Allies. So they had to move the operation into the mountains. And so in the mountain, they would make these tunnels, and they'd have slave laborers to do that. They were all prisoners. And he would have to kind of go in there and see what was going on. And they were also helping to build the rockets that they were trying to use to turn the tide of the war into their favor. But it's real interesting to see how this whole process unfolded in the research that was done into his life by this one particular historian. And if you are interested in that type of stuff, I can pull up the video on that for you and point you in that direction. This woman is very gifted and very educated in the whole history of World War II, and in particular Vernon von Braun. Let's see if I can find it here. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. This gal is great. She's I'll post it in the chat there, in the chat room for you guys if you are kind of wondering about this topic. You might want to do a little research on the history of this. It's right here. I posted in the text chat of the live stream. So if you're interested in looking at that, it's right there. Her name is, or her channel is Vintage Space, and she has about close to 500,000 subscribers. But this conversation, it's about an hour long, but you'll find it to be very informative. She's done a really deep dive on the whole history of Vernon von Braun, and what she, ultimately what she gathers of that information about who he, his character and who he was and his background, and really about the whole interesting topic of World War II, really about the technology that they were racing to get, whether it was the Germans or the Americans and even the Russians after he came to America, and how he ascended into one of the most powerful positions within our NASA program, overseeing, the rockets of that got us to into orbit and into outer space, and ultimately supposedly to the moon. Rockets like the Jupiter or Mercury or even Apollo. Those were all his rockets, Vernon von Braun. So you should take a listen to that, especially when he talks about the alien stuff. That whole alien thing. He was way in advance. I think that he saw where the whole war was going with Germany, and he positioned himself to be indispensable and not become a casualty of war. He was looking at America as a place to ultimately reside and hopefully find some kind of position that would ultimately influence our technology. He was smart. He was a smart guy. He could see what he needed to do to get in a position where he would, have a place to go after the war was over. But that was the whole thing with Operation Paperclip. And he took a whole team of people with him. He literally, there was probably 100 from what I understand, 120 Germans that were probably in that realm of technology that he was in that came with him. I don't know if that included family members or what, but they wanted to have 500, but they lowered it to only 120, I think it was, that were allowed to come. And he got to pick. He was the one that they gave him the ability to pick who he wanted to come over on the team. And that was what you call Operation Paperclip. For anybody that doesn't know, Operation Paperclip. And that had to do with, and if you know what a paperclip is, it's a turning around, it's kind of like, well, it just means that they were able to get people to come into America that might have been on their way to, prison or Nuremberg or whatever, death. They ended up flipping them over into our own system so that we could benefit from all their knowledge. And that even included some of the mad scientists that were doing all these experiments on humans, like guinea pigs. Operation Paperclip. And it says in the Wikipedia, if you don't know what Operation Paperclip is, it says it was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. for government employment after the end of World War II in Europe between 45 and 59. 1945 and 59. Several were confirmed to be former members of the Nazi Party, including the SS and the SA. And he was a part of the SS. He wasn't just a Nazi. He was, he was an SS member as a Secret Service. I think what was it? Not Secret Service. They called it something else, I think. And it says the effort began in earnest in 1945 as the Allies advanced into Germany and discovered a wealth of scientific talent and advanced research that had contributed to Germany's wartime technological advancements. The U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff officially established Operation Overcast. Operations Overcast and Paperclip were related, and the terms are often used interchangeably, on 20 of July 1945, with the dual aims of leveraging German expertise for the ongoing war effort against Japan and to bolster U.S. post-war military research. The operation, conducted by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, or JIOA, was largely actioned by special agents of the U.S. Army's Counterintelligence Corps, or CIC. Many selected scientists were involved in the Nazi rocket program, aviation, and chemical biological warfare. The Soviet Union in the following year conducted a similar program called Operation Oswiecim, whatever that means, and that emphasized many of the same fields of research. The operation, characterized by the recruitment of German specialists and their families, relocated more than 1,600 experts to the U.S. It has been valued at $10 billion in patents and industrial processes. Recruitments included such notable figures as Vernon von Braun, a leading rocket technology scientist. Those recruited were instrumental in the development of the U.S. space program and military technology during the Cold War. Despite its contributions to American scientific advances, Operation Paperclip has been controversial because of the Nazi affiliations of many recruits and the ethics of assimilating individuals associated with war crimes into American society. The operation was not solely focused on rocketry. Efforts were directed towards synthetic fields, medicine, and other fields of research. Notable advances in aeronautics fostered rocket and spaceflight technologies pivotal in the space race. The operation played a crucial role in the establishment of NASA and the success of the Apollo missions to the moon. Operation Paperclip was part of a broader strategy by the U.S. to harness German scientific talent in the face of an emerging Cold War, tensions, and ensuring this expertise did not fall into the hands of the Soviet Union or other nations. The operation's legacy has remained controversial in subsequent decades. So we just assimilated the spirit of Nazism into our own system, and that's when they developed the SS here in America. What, the Secret Service? Right? From what I understand, that came from a lot of their own knowledge they gained from their SS. So it says here, Secret Service, the United States Secret Service, let's see when it developed. Let's look at the Wikipedia on the Secret Service. Let's see what year it was. I'm kind of curious if it was how soon after the war. So it says the Secret Service was established. Okay, so Department of Treasury. Okay, so it was okay. So that had to do with the Civil War, but again, operations. Okay. They said that a lot happened during that time. They're talking about this was more of a. I don't know if they were called the Secret Service back then, but it was Pinkerton, Alan Pinkerton. Anyway, it's a pretty interesting stuff there. Little history there. Well, let's see what else. So I guess this is not going to be over anytime soon, the government shutdown. I think it's going to continue on. It may not be resolved. Can you imagine if it didn't get resolved on Wednesday? They said Wednesday is the day that it should, things are going to come to a head. So even tomorrow, I don't think they're going to have the vote. It looks like from what I just read. I never did get this phone working, so let's see how many people we still got in here. Do you want me to take a minute and go open up the phone lines or what? Because I'd have to leave for a minute or two to get this phone to work. I have an online phone that I can start up if you guys want. Does anybody have anything they want to really call me on, or do you just want to talk to me in the chat? I should start opening up phone lines like I used to do. Remember how I used to open up phone lines and get people to call in show? It's kind of cool, huh? Get people to get on here and chatter away and get some trolls on, make some entertainment trolls. That's always fun to have people call live and have them say all kinds of crazy stuff. How are you going to handle this one? This one is cuckoo. Somebody said my mother's trailer park is letting me have they're letting you have what? All the wood. Oh, all the wood. They threw it in the back area and I'm the only one getting it. Tons of cut log. Wow, that's pretty cool because, wood is expensive, when you, if it's seasoned and you can cut it, you can cut it up. Just ask some of the Canadians. I think Scott is really big into that, cutting wood up there in Canada. That's what they do. That's their main economy. cutting up wood. It's cold up there, in the Great White North. Right, Scott? Don't they cut a lot of wood? They play a lot of hockey, too. They cut wood and they play hockey. And they drink 2-4s all the time. And they do burnout. What do they do? The spins? Depends on what part of Canada you're in, though. Oh, hey, did you hear that Canadian prepper's really upset? He wants to move to Canada or to the United States. He's like so freaking out about what's going on in Canada. You're a regular lumberjack. Oh, by the way, Scott, I did see that you had sent something there. Thank you, brother. I saw that. God bless, bro. I appreciate you. Appreciate your support of our channel, and you've been a long time member and a part of our channel from the very beginning. Scott has been around since probably day one almost. At least 15 years, right? Was it about 15 years ago? 2010? You were hanging out with us in 2010, Scott. Scott is a fixture. I should have him come on here and chat with me sometime. A long time brother in the Lord as well. Montana. What are you talking about, Super Dave? When you say Montana, what do you mean? Montana? You live in Montana or what? So, Scott, let me ask you this. Are you seeing any effects on the economy of the realm that you're involved in there, with what you do? Do you see things lately, or kind of give me a little feedback on what you're seeing? Because I haven't really talked to you in any depth on some of these things. This is why I like to open up the phone lines, but if my wife would answer me here, maybe I could do this. She's not seeing it. She's probably doing stuff with the kids right now. So what are you seeing, Scott, in terms of the effects that it's having on Canadian things that are going on in Canadian, in terms of sales and economics there? Are you noticing things in the last, or is it not affecting Canada as much as it is going on here? I mean, tariffs and things that are happening. I know the tariffs in some way were affecting Canada, but we're going to hell in a handbasket. I know. Okay, so hold on. There she is. Hold on. I think I might get this. Let me get this code here really quick so we can do this. All right, that should do it. Let's see if that works. Okay. Let's see if this works. Okay. Now what I can do is, so what do you guys think? Call in? Does anybody want to talk to me? I mean, if you don't want to talk to me, I don't have to put it up. Does anybody? I need to see people that put one in the chat. If you do want to call in and you want to chat about something that has something to do with the news, and if you really do, type one in the chat, and then I'll put it together. But if I don't see any ones, I'm not going to do it. And it's already, it's already late anyway, so maybe nobody wants to talk. The lady in the basket actually comes to Babylonia. Jose says 1. Drop Homestead says 1. Jackie says 1. Anybody else? That's only 3 people out of like 170 or 80 people. Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name? That's got to be the Doors there. Rob, CP Montana. What does that mean? CP. What does that mean? I'm not sure what CP means. John Denver, your cuz. Oh, yeah. You're the boldest woman that there is, except when it comes to calling in on a live show. Molly, you're like the, what they call that lady on the Titanic. Her name was Molly. They said historically she was like very outgoing, you know. Super Dave, you're just hearing me say, oh, CP, I got you, Canadian prepper. He's going to move to Montana. I don't know if that's, I guess Montana's okay. It is kind of a little bit more outbacky. Depends on what part of Montana. Yeah, Montana's kind of like, we've gone into Montana. It looks pretty wild, you know, like when you go into like eastern or the western part of Montana, it's like pretty wild. I mean, it depends on where you're at in Montana, if you're closer by a big city or something, but you know, they've got grizzly bears there too. You got grizzlies hanging out there in the mountains. You got to be careful. You get eaten up. They'll eat you. What are you laughing at, Molly? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. You can call in, Molly. It's all right. Nobody's really listening. Just me and you. He didn't say just Montana and land options. Yeah. He said he would fare better, being that America has its own brand of totalitarianism. He said he would fare better if it was the Wild Wild West, because that's exactly what America is. It's going to be the Wild Wild West. When everything does hit the fan, they're expecting and they're planning on us killing each other off. Everybody's got guns and they're going to just, you know, go crazy when everything does hit the fan. It's just going to be civil chaos in the country. Yeah, Montana is kind of turning blue, I think. I think it is in a certain, you know, in the major cities, at least in the major places. Good golly, Miss Molly. Okay, you know what? Can you guys give me a minute here? Just give me a minute, and I'll be right back. And then we'll put on the call-in number so that we can talk. All right, but there's got to be more than 3 people calling in. Otherwise, we're just gonna call it a night and say good night. I wish I could play some music again, but I don't want to mess up the copyright, because I used to play music and it would it kind of messes up the back end a little bit. We don't want to do anything that's going to cause a problem with YouTube, because we are kind of dependent on what's going on here right now. So just hold tight for a minute, okay? Let me just tell you to hold the fort here. Is this the main one here? Let me see if I can do this here. Ooh, doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Does it have music or no? All right. You know, another thing is, I was looking back at Trumpet News Channel back in 2021. I was looking at some old footage because I have all the files, and I couldn't believe it. Like, we were getting like 15,000 people watching us live on YouTube. Did you know that? Did you know that we had that many people watching us? We would go live and we would have, you see the number. I would put the number at the top so you could see how many people were live, and it would be like 10 to 15,000 people. watching. And I'd be out there preaching. I'd start preaching, and you could see the number go down. Like it would go from like 10,000 down to 7,000, 8,000 when I start preaching. But it would stay like, and it would hover around 7,000, 6,000, 7, 8. Like that's a lot of people to be sitting there talking to, you know? But I had it set up where I had music and I was doing a lot of different things with video. But, you know, I was kind of thinking about this, and I'll tell you in a minute. I'll be back in a minute. I just got to do one thing before I go live with you guys here. So, bloop, I'll be right back. Take a break, get some coffee. Calm down and get some coffee. I'll be right back. Okay, gotta get my shoes on here. Gotta go run across the field. Okay, I'm back. Back. reality TV show. This is reality TV. This is why our channel was always like, we were always doing stuff that it was almost like reality TV. You know what I mean? We had like a reality TV show here before there was reality TV. Actually, reality TV did actually start right about the time of the Truman Show. You remember the Truman Show? Did you ever see that? I watched that not recently. Rewatched it. Here, I'm going to give you the number here really quick. Hold on. The Truman Show. People would sit and they say they would watch what we were doing because it was like nobody else was doing what we were doing back in 2010. Paul Begley tried to copy us. And he did. He kind of copied a lot of what we were doing. He kind of used the template that we created. I don't think anybody else was really doing what we were doing at all. We were the forerunners, the vanguard. We were the ones out, the tip of the spear on a lot of what we were doing. What everybody does now. Everybody does that. Everybody does it. Well, not everybody. Some people do pre-recorded, but we always did live streams and live, call-ins and whatever else. So let's see if this works. But then life happens and you have 6 kids, and that's what kind of happened. We just kind of had to take a hiatus. Is that what they call it? A hiatus? All right, let me put up this really quickly here. It would be a text, right? Text. Let's see. Can you see that? Oh, no, you can't see that yet. All right. And this is just for a little bit here. We're not going to be going crazy with this call-in thing. We're just going to try it out and see how it works, how it goes. Molly's like, I'd be afraid to get on there. This is one thing I can't do. Well, just think about hosting a live call-in show without a screener, without a call screener. I've got to be quick on the switch if I got a crazy on the other end. Trolling? Yeah. So darting ground fly, you're ready to call in? Okay, there you go. Here you go, darling. Or darting. There you go. Call in. Let's see what we got. Let's see how this works here. Let's see if this is going to work again. See who the first one is to call. Who's going to be the first to get their voice here on YouTube? We're going to do our little town hall meeting right here on YouTube. We should take polls and go into actual combat live on air with whatever. Oh my gosh, you can't all call at once. I got like 4 calls coming in right now. Hold on. Which one do I take first? Okay, hold on. Hold and accept. Can you hear me?
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Okay, wait. I got to set this up so that I can do it right. Okay, can you hear me? You're on.
Yep, I can hear you fine.
What's going on? Who's this?
Oh, this is Darting.
Darting. Hey, so you called me. So you got it.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's on your mind, Darting?
So I've been watching you for quite a few years, and some stuff I disagree with you on.
I figured as much.
Well, I don't think everyone's going to agree with everybody all the time.
Exactly.
About that. But I wanted you to look into something.
Okay.
Because this is going to be, so we are $38 trillion in debt, right?
Right.
What if I were to tell you that the country was declared bankrupt in 2017?
Well, yeah, I've heard people say that.
And I can prove it.
Well, anytime that you have that much debt, you're already bankrupt. But because we create the money, we can do whatever we want because we just create money out of thin air and we fund the rest of the world. So we could write checks that our mouth can't cash.
Well, no, I'm actually referring. The country was filed bankrupt and dissolved. Bankruptcy court.
Well, they were saying that about Trump, that he came into office to basically restructure under the bankruptcy of the United States of America itself that took place in 2016-17. Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, if you go to the Tallahassee Federal Court, the bankruptcy court,
right,
and if you do a search for the United States of America, and I think it has like Corporation of the United States of America, the country was filed bankrupt and we have zero debt. And
really,
yes, and the debt was paid off by the Fang family. And there
by who?
The Fang, Fang.
You're talking about a Chinese, probably Chinese government, right?
Well, you remember, and I don't always agree with Trump. I don't agree with politicians all the time. But, and I know where you lie with him, which
right,
is fine. I mean, it's neither here nor there. But Trump said something very interesting when, the whooping cough come in.
Well, real quick, before you get into that, don't you think that if Trump is what I think he might be, don't you think he would be a person of great skill and ability to marshal the forces of finance to influence the whole of the world in some way at a certain point in time, and that would be a commendable and obviously a that would cause the whole world to be in awe or in some kind of in wonder after him. They would wonder after him because you obviously think that he's doing a good job. Hold on, let me hold this. Let me
call from.
Wait. You know what? I can't. I'm trying to figure out how to use this. You're still there, right?
Yep, I'm still
here. Okay. So for anybody that's calling in, I can't just take your call until I'm actually done. So once I'm done with this caller, you can call in. But I can't set calls up. I guess I'm trying to see if I can do it where I set them up back to back. So there's been like 4 people that have called in, and I just had to decline. So I'll take your call as soon as I'm done with his. Okay. So go on. What was your name, by the way?
My name is Jeff. I was the one that talked to you a while ago. I worked in the intelligence community.
Okay, and your name is Jeff?
Yeah. Yep, correct.
So you're one of those spooks. No. How long ago did you work?
That's what they. I was in Navy cryptology for 6 years, and then I worked at NSA, and I just retired from the FBI.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. So you got a backdoor, you got an inside view into what is going on, kind of from the
Yeah, I mean, I knew that there was something extremely hinky going on, and I think everybody did. But proof positive. Do you remember when Joe Biden was running for re-election, and he went out to Las Vegas to do a campaign fundraiser, and they canceled it because he got the cough again.
Yeah. Was that when they were all in little circles? Or no, that was
Correct.
probably, or when they were in car, when they were in the cars.
This is after the big event. This was when he was running for re-election against Trump. And this is prior to him, like 2 or 3 weeks prior to him tossing it off to Kamala. And yeah, so when I was watching him get off the plane, Air Force One, my buddy who doesn't work Secret Service.
Now, wait a minute. You were watching him in person or on the TV?
No, on TV.
Oh, okay.
And so Biden was getting off the plane, and my buddy was probably about 6 feet behind him. And, the red flags went up because I knew he wasn't Secret Service. He worked for an agency, but it wasn't DOJ. Well, it was DOJ, but it wasn't the Secret Service. So that was the night that Trump accepted the nomination for the RNC. And when Trump come out, my buddy was standing right behind him. So you can't be two places at once.
That's right. So what in the world?
So I texted him and I said, hey, when did you get a twin brother? Because we're sitting here watching you. You're in Vegas, but now you're at the RNC walking Trump out. And he said, well, one of them didn't take place when they said it did. And that's all he would say. So there were some projects that we worked on in the late 90s, early 2000s that kind of are coinciding with what we're seeing today with all this nonsense. And I mean, I think something definitely is coming down the pike, but here's the thing that I don't get with Trump. So you're familiar with the Hatch Act, correct?
The Hatch Act? The Hatch?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm not, I've heard of it, but I can't, you refresh my mind.
Okay. So basically what it is a private citizen can't negotiate on behalf of the U.S.
Right. And they were saying that Al Gore violated that at one point, and they said that Trump did also because he was negotiating with foreign leaders during the campaign, right?
Correct. Well, a lot of people didn't stop and think when he was out of office, and which I don't think it was Joe Biden. And I know that some people are going to get lost. Well, not lost. They're just, they can't buy the government, or I think it's the U.S. military had somebody else sitting in Biden's place as part of continuity of government. And do you think it was a person that had a mask or what? Yes. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. And the reason I say that, do you remember it was probably the first year Joe Biden was in the White House, and he was giving an address.
He looked different. There was a lot of people that said he looked different. Yeah. But how did they make his voice? Was it AI or something? How did they make his voice? How did they make his voice sound?
CIA has devices that, I mean, we used them in the shortly after 9/11 when we went into Afghanistan. Some special activities divisions. They have, it's kind of like a voice box. They strap it to your neck, and then they put synthetic rubber mask over you, so you can sound like anybody. Yeah, it's NSA first come up with the technology. That's like this whole AI thing. This isn't something that's been around. Military and NSA has had this stuff for well, I left the crypto community in 2000, and they were just uh, getting it perfected when I left Hawaii.
Yeah, I told people that too, that it's been around. Like what we have now
Sure.
that they're letting the public play with is something that's totally been around for a long time, and we're just kind of, they're like here, you guys want to play with something? They probably have something that's so far superior
Right.
to what we've got.
Well, we were testing backpack drones in Fort Huachuca, Arizona in '97. That you just pull a drone out of a backpack and throw it, and you have about 8 hours of surveillance that you can use.
What?
Yeah.
In '97?
Yeah, in '97. Yeah.
Well, you ever see that movie, The Enemy of the State, right? That was in 1999. 1999.
Correct.
That was technology that nobody even realized. Well, is this real? Like they thought, that's crazy.
And that was old. That's old. The stuff that they can do now would boggle your mind.
Oh, I know. I can kind of imagine the little bits that I do know. And you heard me talk about some of this stuff. You think I'm pretty? Would you say I'm kind of just tapped into a lot more than most people?
Yeah. And and here's the thing with all of this: the world's been turned upside down, but you have to view everything with an open mind because, I'm big into reading executive orders and stuff like that, and it's just part of being in the intelligence community all of this stuff has been written and put into the National Archives of stuff that's happening, like Jim Comey. So I worked for Jim for about 3 years, and the guy's dirty. And when it comes out of all the stuff that he's done, now my best friend, he was deputy director of the National Security Division of the FBI, so he was kind of Comey's right hand man when it come to international intelligence. And I was having a conversation with him a couple days ago, and I said, hey, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but the news media is putting out stuff that shouldn't be released if Jim Comey hasn't been to trial. They were talking about the different documents that he had, because that would be a sealed indictment. So his response to me, Robert, and I shit you not, I almost wrecked my car when he said this. He goes, well, Jim Comey's in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And I just stopped, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, Jim Comey's address is for Arlington, Virginia, right? And I said, yeah, his 2 houses. He goes, go look up the property deed. So I go look up the property deed, and here his 2 houses were seized by U.S. Treasury under an executive order 13848.
When did they seize it?
They seized it midway into Biden's term.
Wow.
And
okay. Now, since you're all into this stuff, now I got a question to ask you. The whole Q thing, the Q thing. Now, I remember hearing General Flynn say that this was a military operation. The whole Q thing was legit, but it was a military operation or military op that he had no knowledge of. Now, I think he's lying. I think he does know, but he made it seem like he didn't know.
Okay. Well, I didn't know anything about the Q thing till probably 2017, 2018. And I started looking at some of this message, what we call in the intelligence community message traffic. And Robert, I can't tell you if it's true or not, but what I can tell you is that is 100% beyond a reasonable doubt NSA because of the message structure, the headings, how all that is done. That is 100% NSA. It's their reporting system called K-Night. So, do I think there's something going on? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And
so it was true that Trump was still in control during the whole, and I told people this, he was in control during the whole Biden administration, and if he's going to blame Biden for it, when in reality, the military was actually in control, because 2017, as you said, the whole thing flipped over and the corporation went bankrupt, right? Or as we say, it was in control, and
it was dissolved.
It was dissolved, and Trump was really in charge even after. And this is why he just laid it down and let it go. I don't think he fought for it when he could have. He could have fought to keep the presidency because he had all the ability as president to forensically look at all those machines, because it was, it was a corruption to high heaven, but he let it go for a reason.
Yeah, and I believe you're right. And because I'll tell you something that when I give you the chain of events, a light bulb's going to go off. So the whole January 6th debacle, right? So I worked at the White House under the Clinton administration, and I was the chief aide to Admiral Blair, who was the Pacific Fleet commander in the Navy. So I did all the linguistics for Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Korean, Pashto, and Dart. Plus, I did signals intelligence for the Joint Chiefs. There is nothing that happens inside Washington, D.C. that the U.S. Secret Service doesn't know about, period. Full stop. That whole city is wired for sound. Okay? So when J6 happened, there were 6 to 8 guys in that crowd once they were inside the Capitol building that I knew as soon as I seen them. They were either Special Activities Division of CIA, or they were special ops. And so I was geared more towards special ops because they were all wearing the same clothing, same sunglasses, and the same backpack. And the backpack had a white X on it. Now, the X itself doesn't mean anything, but it's the material it's made out of. That material can transmit to a satellite for up to 3 weeks. And we used to sew this in our clothing when we would go out and do ops in case we get captured, lost, whatever. So when I seen these guys, I knew something was awry. What's the only thing that came up missing out of the Capitol Hill that should have been
Pelosi's laptop?
Bingo. That should have been one of the biggest national security issues. And they should have moved heaven and earth to find that laptop. So I was talking to a buddy of mine who I kind of figured would know what the hell was going on. And he was like mum's word. He's like, hey, are you taking your psychotic medication? This was all a bunch of Trump craziness. He set it all up. And I'm like, dude, come on. I mean, all right, I'll play along. Well, shortly
now your buddy
after-
said this, and you said that was psychotic, but it was actually true.
Well, it was his way of telling me that you're on to something without him saying something.
Oh,
you
gotcha.
follow?
Gotcha.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of sarcasm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because we're always just digging at each other,
Gotcha.
just busting each other's chops. And so about 3 years ago, an article came out with the Gateway Pundit that stated that they had somebody within the Special Operations Command that told them off the record that J6 was a complete military operation because they knew that if the Capitol building come under attack, Capitol Hill police would put the congressional members either into a bunker or secure area within the Capitol. It would allow for special forces to go into offices without being really caught. And I was told probably 2 or 3 weeks after the event happened that the whole purpose why they needed Nancy Pelosi's laptop was because she was orchestrating a deal to sell General Dynamics to the Chinese government. And which General Dynamics is number 2, number 3 is our defense contractor. And every member of Congress that signed off on it was getting $5 million from the Chinese government as a payoff. Well, George W. Bush did the greatest thing for this country he ever could have done, and that was FISA courts. Because my understanding is the military went to a FISA court through NSA to start wiretapping through a program called Humpty Dumpty, that they could listen to these congressional members because they knew that they were selling the country out. Because a lot of people don't realize the military has a constitutional obligation, not to the government, but to the American people. That's why I believe Trump has come out like in his J6 speech, when he told everybody to go home peacefully. As part of the Insurrection Act, that statement has to be made prior to him invoking the Insurrection Act. And I'm a personal belief, and I've been told I'm crazy on it, but I'm a personal belief that Trump invoked it prior to him leaving office. Because now here, I'll email you an audio file.
I'll just say this: I've heard a lot of what you're saying talked about on in little bits and pieces here and there on some of the other channels, the Patriot channels or whatever that has said. Yeah, they've talked a little bit about this, but but you're almost in a certain way saying that you can kind of verify this just from your position and your former and all your contacts
I have an audio file that I'll email to you that I received.
But wait! Don't email me anything if it's going to get me in trouble. I don't want to have.
No. It's not classified. It's out in the public sphere. You just have to know where to look at it. But it's an interrogation of James Clapper by the U.S. Secret Service, and it was intentionally leaked out by Chris Miller under the authorization of White House counsel. And
is it on YouTube? Is that interrogation on YouTube? No. But wait. So then what happens if it was on YouTube? Then what would happen?
Well, I think it's going to come out anyways.
How long has it been out?
I received a copy, snippet, and it's probably about 6-7 minutes in 2017. Because do you remember? And here, I can tell you when it took place. Do you remember in Trump's first term?
Now wait a minute. You said this interrogation was of James Clapper?
Yes.
And isn't he like the
He was the national security advisor under Barack Obama.
And if it's already been out, are you sure it's not
Correct.
AI or anything?
Oh, no. And that's the first thing I thought of. I thought when I got this, it was all BS. So I sent this audio file to a friend of mine who I knew used to be part of the PBD, which is the Presidential Daily Brief, and he worked with Clapper. And when I sent it to him, he said, "Where in the hell did you get this?" And I said, "Well, you know where all this stuff comes from." And I said, "My only question is,
where does it? Where does it? You said you know where this stuff comes from. Where does it come from?
It's a very, very, very controlled leak that they want certain individuals to have. You know, they kind of call it like a dead man switch.
Right.
Okay. So
don't you feel like you're revealing information that might be potentially
no. I'm not worried about that at all. Not at all.
Well, you sound to me like you're a person that really supports what's going on to some degree with what's happening right now in our government.
Well, here's my thoughts on it. I'm country first. Okay, I served my country for 30 years. If Donald Trump, any of his advisors, anybody has sold this country out, they need to be hung. Politicians don't mean that. I mean, you're seeing it right now. I mean, just on the House or the Senate floor tonight. You know, the leader of the Republican Party, they were told to stay in Washington, D.C. This joker was in Texas. You know,
you're talking about the guy that was supposed to make the vote?
He was the last person to vote.
And he wasn't in D.C., so he didn't listen, and that's a break of protocol, and it could get you in trouble?
Correct. Yeah, you could be censured for that. Yeah, okay. But it won't happen. But in this interview that Clapper gave to the U.S. Secret Service, and this goes back, do you remember when Trump told, and it wasn't directly to Biden, it was on air, when Trump made this statement, "I'm not the one that has to worry about the 25th Amendment. It's going to be you, Joe Biden." You remember when he said that?
I think so.
Okay, so I'll give you the background on that, why Trump made that statement, because it goes to this audio file. There was a meeting that was done at not OEOB, the Naval Observatory, which is the vice president's residence, where Clapper, Paul Ryan, and Nancy Pelosi was getting ready to have Mike Pence do the 25th Amendment on Joe Biden. Or not Joe Biden, I'm sorry,
on
Donald Trump. Correct. The head Secret Service agent.
Was this after January 6th?
No. This was why Trump was still in office. And the head Secret Service agent for Mike Pence's detail overheard this conversation and notified the director of the U.S. Secret Service, saying, "I need a push, a relief." And they sent him a relief, and he went and let the director of the Secret Service know that they were going to try to do a coup and pull the 25th Amendment. So that's when Trump disappeared for like 7 days. And the news media kept asking, "Where's the president? Where's the president?" Well, the Secret Service had him locked the hell down because they didn't know how big this was going to get. Well, an agency intercepted a phone call of Clapper, and the U.S. Secret Service brought him in for questioning, and that's when he spilled the beans about Mike Pence, where he was involved in trafficking when he was the governor of Indiana. And they knew that they could hold that over him.
Are you talking about human or drug?
Yes. No, human. Sex trafficking. And he was into little boys. Yeah, I mean, the audio is wild, Robert.
Now, this is Clapper that's being, so this is, okay, so the whole thing with Mike Pence, though, that was, because I know I heard a lot of talk about him in his college days, and I even think there's pictures and stuff that might say that he was kind of gay or something.
Mm-hmm. Correct. I mean, and it's so far-fetched, that you wouldn't think that any of this craziness is true. But there are so many indicators, or what we call indicators in the intelligence community, that shit's not right. Even still today, with this government shutdown. I think this was all calculated because, you had Trump have Elon Musk do this thing called Doge, right? So computer-wise, they could sift through all that information, but you still have to have human eyes to go through all the data. They didn't have enough time to go through all that data with human eyes and to actually analyze it. And then just a few days ago, they shut down the IRS because they're getting ready to go under a 90-day audit. And I personally believe, and I think this is all going to hinder on the Supreme Court decision on tariffs, because Trump keeps putting out there, we could fund all this with tariffs.
Fund all what?
So the whole government through tariffs.
Okay.
I mean, I have a business where.
Don't you think Trump is slashing? He's using this situation to kind of slash and burn a bunch of jobs that aren't needed, and literally AI's kind of the whole Doge thing. Don't you think that was a part of, kind of preparing government agencies to be trimmed down and slimmed down, and ultimately to be monitored and or facilitated with this new technology?
Oh. Yeah, I think that's part of it, because one of my buddies that I worked with, he was into the computer aspect of the intelligence. And they were introducing artificial intelligence into they call quantum computing, to see what the effects of AI would be into this quantum computing system that they were working on. But what I think this whole government shutdown is to find all of the embezzlement that's going on, both Republican and Democrats. And they have to do a complete pause on everything. And when was the last time, because I can't remember, that a federal judge has been able to dictate foreign policy to a president of the United States? Or, because the government shut down. So, in theory, we have no functioning government.
Well, wasn't that an Obama judge too? Was that an Obama appointed judge?
Correct.
So you think that Obama is still kind of, because they said that when Trump came in at one point, they said there was like a parallel government going on there.
A shadow government. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I think my personal belief is I think Obama's already been taken care of.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling, like I saw video of him, and it didn't either. He looked really
No.
older.
Yeah.
He looked different.
Yeah, to me, it's not. I think this is why they've been doing all this AI, because if you look at some of the speeches that Chris Miller, who made no sense why Trump fired the Secretary of Defense and appointed Chris Miller acting Secretary of Defense when Trump was getting fired himself. It made no sense to me. And then, Chris Miller, whose specialty in Delta Force was psychological operations. He come out at, I believe they were at the Naval War College, and he gave a speech saying, the country's been through a lot, and we're going to go through a lot more. And we've been involved in some very highly sophisticated operations that most people will never realize what has happened. And it was just really weird. Why would you only have 60 days left in the White House? Why would you appoint a new Secretary of Defense unless you were instituting continuity of government?
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember people talking about that.
Correct. And and I think Trump is real boisterous. He's definitely egotistical. You don't get that kind of wealth by not being it. But the thing that gets me with Trump is he says some of the most outlandish things at the time, but they always seem to come true. It's almost like he's telling people,
I keep telling people that Trump is tapped into at the highest levels. He's not being dictated to and manipulated like a puppet. I think he's a higher level player. Like he's kind of the one that's kind of orchestrating things in some ways.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, and I'll let you get some other callers, but do you think the whole thing in Venezuela is about narcotics?
No, I think it's all about. Here's what I've been telling people, and I don't know if you've been watching regularly or not, but my take on the whole Venezuela thing is, as it is in Nigeria, it's not about the Christians, it's not about narcotics, it's about oil, it's about power and in the region, it's about setting up and preparing for a global war on these regions to be able to control. And not only for the energy that we can gain from, I mean, Nigeria is the center of all the oil, hub of Africa.
Diamonds.
And diamonds, diamonds too in Nigeria as well.
Right.
Wow. But also Venezuela. They're going to control all those resources. And Trump has always said, we always do things backwards. We don't. When we go into a country, we don't take the spoils. We just leave it there, and we lose all kinds of money. He says we need to take the spoils. So that's kind of what I think he's going to do.
Okay, so I'll connect a couple dots that I think the reason why Trump is probably going to do a huge operation inside of Venezuela. So I'm sure you and I can both agree that there was some hanky-panky in the 2020 election, right?
Yep,
okay.
Totally.
So Dominion, their machines, originally in the early 90s, I live in the city that's the home of Diebold, which is the ATM machine and the safe machine. They make safes. Well, Diebold had won the contract to create the voting machines. And the executive vice president of international relations, who at the time was Andy Anderson, and always made a lot of trips to Caracas. And the only reason I knew, because I went to school with his son. And Andy had went to Capitol Hill and informed Congress that this is a major national security issue because you can manipulate all this data that goes into these machines. So Diebold scrubbed the project, and then it was sold off to another company, and then Dominion bought it. Well, there is a manufacturing inside of Caracas that actually was making the Dominion machines. And this is the reason why I think Trump is getting ready to go into Venezuela. It's not for the drugs, that's a cover story. It's because they had an attempted coup of the United States government, along with Germany, along with the British, along with the Israelis. And, you know, there was...
And I heard this. I've heard this. I have heard this too, and also Spain too, right? Spain.
Correct. Well, I was told shortly after the 2020 election, a buddy of mine who was part of the gold team for SEAL teams, that keep your eye on the Vatican and keep your eye on Germany. And shortly, a few days later, there was some rumblings in the intelligence community that we did a raid on a building inside Germany called Seidel. And that's where some of these IP addresses of the boats were going to. And
we heard a lot about all that, and a lot of that when it was happening, and there was some connection to the Vatican. But so you're saying that the Venezuelan operation possibly may be the reasons why they're going in there for some other reasons there.
Yeah, for an attempted coup of the U.S. government.
Wow, and they're going to probably. You think they're going to release all that information once they're in there, or?
No, I think before too long, and you can. I think what's going to happen, and this is another reason why the government shutdown happened, is I think prior to the midterms, you're probably going to see a U.S. Supreme Court decision to where every member of Congress has to go up for re-election. And I think they're probably going to make all Americans re-register to vote. And because the voter rolls are so corrupt.
So you think it's going to all be a digital type thing, or is it going to be more of a paper?
No, all paper
thing?
ballot.
Oh,
paper
really?
Ballot, and yeah, they have. I mean, the military views our elections as the biggest national security issue, because if you have digital voting, it allows for foreign countries to manipulate it.
Well, that's why they shouldn't be going to this digital ID stuff either, because it's the same thing. But I don't think Trump. I think Trump wants all this stuff, this digital, this tech influence on everything.
Yeah, and that's somewhere that I disagree with him on. But I'm sure, hopefully, all this is going to shake out fairly certain, because there's going to be, I think, early, not this coming week, but the following week, there's going to be a big sealed indictment that I was told that it's going to be released. That's going to really rock people's world.
Do you know who it is?
I believe so.
Is it Comey? No, it's not Comey.
No, Comey's already been indicted.
Oh yeah, he's already been.
Comey's screwed.
So you're saying that this indictment's coming in the next week, right? So we're going to keep you on that. We're going to How often do you listen to this channel here? I'm just curious.
Every evening.
Really? You listen every evening? Yeah. Now, are you a believer? I'm kind of curious, because I do talk a lot about God and faith and all that other.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's amazing. That is so wonderful that you're a person that has had this type of knowledge
right. and don't take this wrong. I'm not a big Bible thumper, I think, as they're
Right.
referred. I do believe in God. I do believe there's a higher power. I do believe things happen for a reason.
Right.
I don't push my values on, other people. But yeah, there's definitely something there that we don't know.
Right. And that's good. That, I just always tell people, just be who you are. Don't try to don't try to make something happen. Just you make things happen by being who you are.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Because I'm a firm believer that God throws you curveballs for a reason. You may not understand it at the time, but it works its way. There's a purpose behind it.
Yes. Well, definitely interesting stuff that you're sharing, and I should probably keep you on to talk again anytime something comes up. I should be able to get a hold of you. Is this your phone number here? Maybe I can.
Yeah,
I can keep you on. You'll be like a go-to kind of person to ask questions about what's happening and maybe a little background and insights into the back end of what's going on.
Sure.
Let me make sure I've got the right number here that I'm talking to you. So, okay, I got your number there. And then I'll just put your name again was Jeff?
Jeff. Yep.
Jeff. Okay, Jeff. Well, that's really interesting. Is there anything else you want to share that you think might so you were at the end you were talking about Venezuela and an indictment that's coming this week that's going to be huge. That's going to be interesting because I have been seeing some rumblings on some of the Telegram channels about certain people coming up for possible indictments, but
well, here I believe it's going to be Obama, and this is the reason why. So, at one of my businesses, we had a guy come through that was driving from New York to Chicago, which they were working on the Barack Obama library, and he came probably about 2 years ago, and he was like, yeah, this is no library I've ever seen. It's got rebar, reinforced concrete walls with no windows. He goes, and they put it basically like in Cabrini Green, which is one of the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. And he was coming back through, and I was like, oh, you guys must be finished with the library. And he goes, no, we're going to go tear it down. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, we're tearing the library down.
What?
Yeah.
Why would it have why would the walls be concrete rebar without windows? What do you think that is? It's because of the neighborhood?
No, it was 2 foot wall, 2 foot thick reinforced concrete walls. And you can look at a picture of it online, and it just looks like a ugly concrete slab. And
why do you think they did that?
I have no idea. I mean, you would think that you would want your presidential library not to look like a fortress. But I was really shocked when he said, no, we're tearing it down. It lost all of its funding and something is with it. And I said, well, who ordered it to be torn down? And he said the U.S. Treasury.
What?
Yeah, which I didn't think the U.S. Treasury had any authority over it, but apparently they do.
Now Trump's going to come out and say, see, his birth certificate was fake.
well, you know, and I keep an open mind with that.
I think it was because when Obama first came into office, as I said, I started YouTube. I was doing a lot of research on who Obama was and looking at that whole topic of the birth certificate. I looked at the forensic analysis of the actual pictures and everything that was posted, it wasn't what they said it was. It was definitely fake.
Correct. And, you know, I believe that's when, you know, the military really started looking into what was going on, because somehow I've been told that somehow this Mondami that was elected mayor is going to tie in to Obama through the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's going to be flagged as a terrorist organization. And the head of an agency in New York City had told me that he extremely highly doubts that Mondami will be sworn in January.
It does seem like Trump's making a lot of statements that seem to be indicating like an arrest almost. He didn't say,
Right.
He made it sound like if there's something illegal, but obviously he's telegraphing that there is something that, and then Mondami said in response, hey, you're going to have to come against the whole state, not just me, to get me.
Correct. Yeah. And, it's almost like the thing that amazes me is like all the stuff that they were going after Trump on. They are now being found guilty of this. Look at Letitia James with the mortgages. All of this, it's almost like it's been orchestrated.
See, that's what I think, though. See, this is what I think is that Trump. It's kind of like when you give somebody a bunch of drugs, and they get addicted, and then you have control over them, and you let them you let them out on a reel. You let them take it as far out, and then you reel them back in, and then you've got them. They're already hooked, and you've basically got control of all these wayward, corrupt fish, because you're really the one that's controlling what's actually happening. And I think that's kind of what Trump is doing.
Well, see, and I don't think it's Trump, though. And this is, I think it's the military, because I still believe we're in continuity of government. And the reason I say that is Pete Hegseth just kicked out all the press out of the Pentagon. And then last weekend.
So why do you think they did that? Why do you think they did that? Well, I think they're also doing that with the White House press too, right?
Correct. Right, because I think they're trying to control the information because they know they have leaks. And that's why last week there was a article, and I believe it was the U.S. or New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, where they said they were moving top-level cabinet members, families, to military bases.
Right, I saw that. Okay. What do you think of that?
Well, that's part of continuity of government.
Right, but what do they think? There's going to be some kind of an attack on D.C.?
No, I think what it is they're worried that members of the cabinet, that their family members possibly could be part of a snatch and grab job to continue what they're trying to do, which is to overturn the U.S. government. And, me personally, and it's not the Israeli people, I believe that the Israeli government is huge into this. And the reason I say that is Israel is the only ally of ours that has ever attacked a U.S. Navy vessel and has never paid the consequences for it. And that was the USS Liberty. And I personally believe that Israel, the government, not the people, have our politicians by
the cojones. Yeah, I believe that too. And do you think they have something on Trump in some way?
No, and here's the reason why. If they would have something on Trump, the Democrats and even the Republicans would have used it against him. I mean, you can go back and watch when he was on Oprah Winfrey.
But what about what do you think of the connection though to him being bailed out back when he went bankrupt, because I heard he was like $1 billion
Correct.
upside down. So the Israelis
Correct.
actually bailed him out. So they do have something kind of over him, right?
Well, yeah, I believe so. But I was told that it wasn't the Israelis who actually put the money up. I was told it was the government of Qatar.
Yeah, because that's another thing that happened with Kushner when they bought his building. Wasn't it Qatar or was it UAE?
Correct. No, I think it was Qatar.
And that's why they gave him that's why they gave Trump a plane.
Yes, and because he saved the king of the House of Saud's life, bin Salman, because there was an assassination attempt on bin Salman in Las Vegas. NSA intercepted the traffic.
Was that when that shooting happened?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
because see, that's what I had heard was there was something else going on at the same time that shooting was.
Correct.
That shooting was a cover, wasn't it?
Yes. Because there was an attempted assassination on bin Salman, which
okay, let me ask you this: was it the Wahhabists that were involved? Because it was,
yeah, because Fidel, who was in the king's group, Faisal, he was big into the Wahhabis, and they were trying to rub bin Salman out because he believed that he should have gotten the crown because he was close with Fahd. And when they notified the security detail for bin Salman that there was an attempt on him, it's going to link to, you remember Jamal Khashoggi?
Yeah, I was just thinking of him today. Is that weird? I was thinking of Jamal. I was thinking of that whole event that happened in Saudi Arabia.
Correct. Well, Khashoggi was involved in the setup in Vegas, and that's why bin Salman got rid of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I remember Trump made a big deal, like he made a deal about it, like he kind of like, I think this was the thought I had about, it's so weird that we're talking about this, because I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about like Trump made a deal, like it made a statement that, well, like we're going to investigate, but I think it was more of a show just to make it seem like he was wanting to get to the bottom of it, and then he cleared him and he said, oh, it's all good.
Right. Well, and here's something else that I think a lot of people haven't put two and two together. One of the architects of after 9/11 died, Dick Cheney. We called him in the intelligence community, we called him Darth Vader. He died.
Yeah.
But you don't hear anything about a service. Trump brushed it off. You don't hear of any. I mean, if we were living in, non-upside down world, there would be a big event for Dick Cheney because of
it would have been like a state funeral and everything.
But you haven't heard nothing about it at all. And to me, that seems weird. That's just another thing to me that there's something definitely awry. That, whether you want to call it a distraction or whatever, however you want to phrase it, that's something that, is definitely odd.
When you say a distraction, are you talking about his death or are you talking about what?
No, I mean, all this other stuff's going on, and no one's talking about Dick Cheney because they don't. They almost kind of like want to brush it to the side because they don't want to have a state funeral because Dick Cheney, was treasonous against the country.
And now, what do you say? Like, what do you mean by you're talking about 9/11, or something?
That, and with his dealings with Halliburton, and all that, all the
that also Halliburton was also a part of that whole Gulf oil spill too. Did you know that?
Correct. Yes. Yep. Because during the first Gulf War, you remember a guy named Red Adair? He was like, he could go in and put out an oil fire in no time. And Halliburton actually hired Red Adair to go in and put out all the oil fires that Saddam Hussein did in Kuwait. And so
I remember that.
Dick Cheney got a lot of money for that. And you don't hear nothing out of Liz Cheney either.
Okay, here's another thing I remember about Dick Cheney. Somebody was telling me about this that was in California that had some back knowledge on this, but that Dick Cheney, they were dumping a bunch of toxic, I don't know if it was radioactive material in the mountains of California. Did you hear anything about that?
Correct. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. Well,
what was that?
They were doing, well, I think this goes back to the precursor to the Uranium One deal. You remember that Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Okay. All this stuff is all intertwined. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And have you seen the pictures of Bill Clinton lately?
Yeah. Well, he's old. I mean, isn't he old?
Well, yeah, he's old, but he looks like, a mummified corpse.
Yeah, he does look pretty bad.
To me, it just seems like all of these big movers and shakers in politics in the big business world, everything has gone completely quiet. You have LeBron James that is now going to get indicted over this Vegas poker issue. I don't know if you heard about that or not.
No.
So there was like 5 or 6 players inside the NBA that had video poker machines in Vegas that were rigged, and they were all getting cuts.
What?
Yes. And, LeBron James, he's more than likely probably going to get indicted on this because he's involved in it. And
he's been a big, huge critic of Trump.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, just to give you some background, his godmother, the lady who raised him, was our secretary at DOJ in 2 cities up from where I currently live. And when he was going to not Akron, Hoban, whatever school he was playing ball, and he used to come down to the bureau all the time. And her son was actually he was working with Nike, and that's how LeBron got his big start at Nike, was through Maverick was his name. And I mean, all this stuff is all intertwined.
That's crazy.
Mind-boggling. Yeah, it definitely is. But here, I'll let you move on with your show. Keep my number and feel free to give me a call anytime.
Yeah, definitely will. If something comes up, I'm going to call you, and then we'll set up a conversation. Definitely. All right. Hey, it was good talking to you, Jeff. God bless.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
All right. God bless. See you later. Well, that was an interesting call. Yeah, definitely. What do you guys think? That was definitely interesting. Wow. Gosh, that was it's a lot of that information I've kind of already known about, and it's been out there. But he kind of put together some pieces there, here and there, that I wasn't really thinking about how it all fit. So yeah, that's interesting info. I still think Trump, like, he has that influence over what's really going on there. And, there's other things that I've heard. I probably should talk to him again more about some of the other things, because it's too much information, you think? Why do you say that, iPet Goat? Too much info? Are you talking to me, or are you talking about what we talked about? Yeah. It's interesting. Interesting. I'm always interested in things that are going on behind the scenes. So, anyways, guys, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It is kind of late. I know that we're already at 11 o'clock here on the West Coast, on the left coast, and a lot of you are probably in either central or eastern part of the country. That's probably way later. And other than that, let me look at some of your guys' comments real quick. I'm not taking any more calls. That was enough. That was a good call, and that was probably enough for tonight. But yeah, I'm going to definitely keep Jeff on the call on the for the 411. When the 911 goes down, we're going to call up Jeff and find out what the 411 is. Our spook, our in-house spook, who believes in Jesus, right? Let's see what he has to say. 2 a.m. and where you're at there, iPet Goat. Wow, that's awesome. Zevia blue. Yeah, no, actually it's green. It's green. It's not blue. It's the green one, because I got a green screen. That's why it's clear. You can see. It's a green one. It's the zero sugar, and actually I know it's the ginger me one. The ginger me, it's ginger. No sugar. We should do a call in again. Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing call ins. I think that's a good idea to do call ins when something goes down. People want to chat. They want to talk. It's harder to talk to people in the chat than it would be just to talk to people on the phone. Yeah, Brad, I think you're right. I think you're right on that. So in the meantime, guys, I pray the Lord's blessings, richest blessings on all that are here, and that we continue to, it's weird. This conversation that I had, I wonder if it's connected to this dream I had. I had this very strange dream this morning, and it had to do with military stuff. Is that weird? And then it's so weird that I was thinking about some of the things we talked about when he brought up that Khashoggi guy, and I was thinking about that today. I thought that was weird. You know how things happen? They kind of almost seem like they were almost predetermined in some way. The government shutdown, I'm not sure, Alexis, where it's going to go from here, but it looks like something's going to happen tomorrow at 11. Will that actually be the resolution point, or is it going to be pushed off? Because I've seen some other reports that it could go into Wednesday. But even then, do they actually have all the votes? I don't know. We're going to find out tomorrow at 11. That would be 11 o'clock East Coast time. So I'm guessing that's, what is it? That would be 9 o'clock West Coast time? Or 8 o'clock West Coast time? Is that right? 8 o'clock in the morning? I guess this is supposed to be going down. 5-minute phone calls, make it short. Yeah. Well, if you got a good informational person that has a lot of information like Jeff, you can extend it out a little bit, because it's kind of almost a show in and of itself, talking about this type of stuff. He seems to be pretty tapped into what's been happening in on the back channels, and a lot of what I had heard, he had said that, that kind of confirms some of those things that I've heard in the past. So kind of put some pieces together. Did you guys get a lot out of this? MTM, let me see here. Yeah. Old men will dream dreams. Yeah. I guess I'm getting old. I've always had dreams, though. Even when I was younger, I had dreams that were pretty accurate. I've always been old, even when I was young, I guess. But I do get visions still. I still get, it's just, I think that old men at a certain point, when the scripture says that, I think it's talking about the emphasis will be on dreams is more so than other aspects. But yeah, super good, Colorado. Yeah, God bless. All right, guys. I was on Rumble just to kind of, because they fixed some of the software issues, so I started streaming a little bit onto Rumble just to get people's attention over there. And at this point, Rumble is still kind of glitchy, but some of the issues that were related to the software that I use that streams on multiple platforms at once was fixed. So I started, using Rumble again. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to share our thoughts here, as well as reach out to the community online. And hopefully, if things do get worse economically, we can somehow pool our resources together and try to help as many people as possible. As a church, as what we are considered to be the church, you and I, if you're a believer. Those who aren't, that watch, hey, you're welcome to, be a part and in just a affiliated kind of way. If you don't really believe everything that we believe, it's okay. You can still benefit from what we're doing as well as possibly participate. But really, we all are human. When it really comes down to it, we are all human, and God ultimately does want to reign upon all of us, the righteous as well as the unrighteous. He's trying to get your attention if you're not a believer, and in my estimation, he's trying to get your attention. But that will be in accordance with your own understanding, whether or not that's true or not. You have to ask yourself whether or not what I'm saying is truly relevant to your experience and whether or not you're going to avail yourself of that. And the only way you know how to benefit from that is by taking a little step of faith. I was thinking of what does that mean, a little step of faith? But to action. It's an action. I was thinking about CP, Canadian prepper, and how he talks a lot about a lot of these kind of doomish end time scenarios. Even though he's not a Christian, he still has a lot of views that are very in line with what I think is actually happening. That I think, he even says it's divine providence. He'll kind of look up and say it's some kind of other power. I mean, he doesn't have a specific personal understanding of what it is, or personally relating to that power. It's just kind of a generic influence, right? But I was thinking about him having a personal relationship and how that would, it's really a humbling thing to say to oneself, hey, this God might be personal, and he actually might want to reveal who he really is in time and space. If there is a moment in time and space where God really did intersect the human experience, where he literally did reveal himself. Now, obviously, God revealed himself all throughout the Old Covenant in different ways, through different men and prophets and, kings and priests, and actually the structure of the way things are, Moses. But he ultimately brought an important and a moment in time which actually, and I guess the word would be like it was a focal point for all of history, past, present, and future would all look to that moment in time. And that would be at the advent of Christ, when Jesus himself made his appearance. And if you really study who Christ is, so I was thinking about this in relationship to Canadian Prepper, that it would take a lot of humility, as it would for anybody that has intelligence, to literally lay down your own understanding and receive a message from a person in history like Jesus, saying, I am the Christ, or I am, before Abraham was, I am. You know, what does that mean? Before Abraham was, I am. What does that mean? Or when Jesus says, unless you believe that I am he, the great I am, right? You will surely die in your sins. He's telling the Pharisees this. He's confronting the religion of his day, which is Orthodox. It would be like me saying, hey, I'm criticizing some of the major leaders in Christianity, and I'm telling them that their understanding of our Orthodox, which we all agree on, the Orthodox teachings of Christianity, you're not keeping it. You're not right with God. You're in error in the way that you're applying these truths. That's exactly what Jesus was saying to the Pharisees. He was in agreement with their Orthodox teachings of Moses and the prophets, but he was calling them out as not receiving the essence of the message, because he was the message. He was the truth. He was the Word made flesh and dwelling in our midst. So I go back to Canadian Prepper again. Canadian Prepper, I can just see him chafing at the whole idea of literally calling upon Jesus' name. But that's what confounds the wisdom of the wise. The preaching of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God unto salvation. So I would say the power of God that brings salvation to, and obviously he cares about his children. That's another thing that, I was thinking about. Every one of us has interests, and we want God to save us from the evil in this world. There's a lot of evil. And so you call upon him to protect you, to save you, not just in the physical world to save us from something that we're afraid of, but the real fear that brings a separation from not just loved ones, but from the God of heaven. Ultimate, your eternal, eternal life, your eternal existence is going to have a separation. That's why they call it the second death. You don't want that. So get that part right. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then it says all these other things will be added to you. Protection, loved ones being saved, provisions, whatever else in this world that you're worried about, God is going to take care of. But put him first, recognize who he truly is, and the definition that he himself gave humanity. This is who I am, right? And he revealed it through Christ. He obviously, the prophets and the prophets and the law all testify to who Jesus is. So that was in the context of God's protocol. I would say it's the law and the prophets were like a chain of custody, showing that Jesus truly is who he said he is. It all confirms, whether the Jews recognized it or not. It all confirms. And a lot of Jews did recognize it, because the whole New Testament church was all Jewish at the time. It was just understood as another aberrant sect of Judaism at the time when Jesus was on the earth. It didn't become a Gentile religion until later. But what I'm saying is that testified to what the truth truly was, that he revealed it in the person of Jesus Christ. But you got to call upon his name. If you don't call upon his name, there is no other way. It says there is no other name under heaven whereby men must be saved or can be saved. There is no other name under heaven. And so at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So we appeal to men's understanding of what is ultimate reality, and that comes by seeking, by searching, by asking, by knocking, and ultimately God revealing. because only God can draw you to the Son. No one comes to the Son except the Father draws him. And unless flesh and blood, God does not reveal, flesh and blood does not reveal this to you. It's my Father in heaven, right? He said that to Peter. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father is in heaven. And that was the confession of Peter that he was the Christ. So unless you have a revelation from God Almighty, there's no way you're going to even know that Jesus is who he said he is or understand what that means. So I pray every one of you out there that has a very cerebral thinking mechanism that you need to depend on logic or reason, which is what Canadian Prepper has in his mind. So I'm praying for Canadian Prepper. I am praying that he gets his heart right and saved, and that he gets some peace in his life, because I know he's freaking out right now. He's freaking out about going here or hither and yon and trying to get out of Dodge. But he's not going to find anything by just moving. He's got to move his heart and get it closer to God to get the peace. Amen. So all you guys keep praying for Canadian Prepper. But anyways, God bless you guys, and may the Lord bless everyone that's here tonight. And go with God, and He'll go with you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great sleep and a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.